Welcome back to Foundations of Health, and today we're on session 3, where we're going to talk about GMO, corn, soy, and organic food. Disclaimer. So the information in this video has not been evaluated by the FDA or any other medical body. I do not diagnose or guarantee treatment, cure, or prevention of any illness or disease, and information shared here is for educational purposes only. It's not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. GMO, genetically modified organism. GMO on food labels indicates that the food has been genetically engineered for a particular purpose or purposes. Increased yields, to make the crop able to withstand an abundance of herbicide spray, primarily glyphosate, a broad-spectrum herbicide. Glyphosate inhibits a plant's ability to synthesize amino acids, therefore killing it. In 2017, glyphosate was classified as a known carcinogen by California's Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. Wheat is one of the most genetically modified foods available today. The wheat we are eating today has actually undergone thousands of hybridizations. Okay, so wheat was genetically modified before the term GMO was even starting to be used. It's technically not GMO because the methodologies for genetic modification of GMO items is different, but hybridization and GMO reach the same result, where they actually genetically modify the DNA. 15% gluten, which really in this study, we're talking gliadin, used to be found in a regular stalk of wheat, if you will. Now, after the hybridization, it's upwards of 75% of this particular protein. And remember, gliadin is the protein that prompts zonulin, which results in the splitting apart of tight junctions. Additional analyses of proteins produced by GMO wheat showed that 5% of them, okay, now these are the proteins, 5% of these proteins in the daughter wheat are not even found in either parent plant that they hybridize together. Does that make sense? So there's these brand new proteins that weren't even in existence before in wheat. It's not our grandmother's wheat. I'll put it that way. There's also no evidence that along the way of all this hybridization and genetic modification, there was any consideration of safety testing for human consumption. It's a little frightening. I like to refer to it as frankenfoods because it's, like I said, it's not your grandmother's food. Corn. About 80% of the corn grown in the U.S. is genetically modified. GMO corn is modified to withstand pests such that it is actually considered a pesticide in and of itself. So as a result, GMO corn is not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. It's regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency. Does that just make you feel a little odd when you go in? Now, the good news is you can find corn that's not been genetically modified, and you might want to consider that. This corn is known to cause, this GMO corn, is known to cause severe allergic reactions in sensitive children and adults. In one particular child, just clinical evidence, it's caused rashes, puffy face, inexplicable rages, headaches, and stomach aches. Now, this is not unlike the effect of synthetic dyes, synthetic additives that we know for, and we have known for a long time, that can impact children in that sort of way. So that, when we're thinking about that, think back to that gut-brain connection that I talked about and that highway called the vagus nerve. And there's also a lymphatic highway where once these things get into your lymphatic system and the bloodstream, they break through the intestinal barrier and hop on the highway to your brain. Just saying, this can be pretty serious stuff if it's you that's affected, or if it's one of your children or one of your family members or somebody else you love. In 1995, biologist Arpad Pusztai was given a research grant for testing the safety of GMO potatoes for Britain. After a 10-day feeding study, animals fed the GMO potatoes suffered damage to their immune systems, organs, and tissues. This is a 10-day feeding study. These are the results that they noticed that quickly, just from GMO potatoes. In 2004, Britain reported that death rates among chickens fed GMO feed have doubled. I'm going to mention this in a few minutes, but buy organic non-GMO chicken. Just saying. Take a look at this picture. Let's pretend this is your backyard. It's be a very nice backyard, by the way. If you were growing a garden and you had to dress like this to take care of your garden, would you want to ingest that food? I'm just asking. Me personally, not so much. GMO soy. A study was conducted using test animals and soybeans that were referred to as Roundup Ready, which means they have been genetically modified to allow the farmer to freely spray glyphosate, Roundup in this case, without harming the crop visibly. Nobody's asking about what about it at a molecular level. So the test animals were fed the Roundup Ready soybeans and began showing alterations in liver, pancreatic, intestinal, and testicular tissue compared to animals fed non-genetically modified soybeans. So this was published in Experimental Botany in 2009. Okay. Just things to think about. So organic versus conventional, and then we're going to talk about beef. We're going to go back to cows for a second. When you're buying chicken, I highly recommend that you buy organic non-GMO whenever you possibly can. And if it's a budgetary issue, then in most cases, I would say then eat less chicken and eat more vegetables. Produce, organic versus conventional. Buy organic, at least when you are purchasing what's referred to as the Dirty Dozen. So every year, the Environmental Working Group, they test crops all across the country, and they determine how many pesticides are found in each, say, crop of strawberries, blueberries, potatoes, tomatoes, whatever produce that they're testing, and they rank them. And the Dirty Dozen list are those produce items that have the highest concentration of pesticides. So hop on over to their website and search for the Dirty Dozen list, and use that as a shopping guide, so you don't have to spend all your money on organic just when you're buying the dirtiest ones. Beef. Conventionally raised cows are fed GMO corn and soy, as opposed to just allowed to graze on the grass. The conditions for conventionally raised beef are pretty horrifying. Conventionally raised cows are also injected with hormones and antibiotics. So we saw that in dairy cows. So the same applies to cows that give us our beef. Grass-fed cows produce meat that contain more omega-3 fatty acids, which most of us lack anyway. And organic beef is raised on a farm which doesn't use pesticides, GMO feeds, or sewer sludge. So back to when you're cleaning up your diet, these are some of the things that you have to think about, because conventionally raised beef, chickens, pork, any kind of produce are going to be a lot dirtier and a lot more detrimental to your system over time than clean. So before we move on to our next session, let's just do a quick Summary. Our microbiome, we need it for our survival. Dysbiosis leads to a host of health conditions not healthy, ones you don't want. Everything we breathe in, ingest, and lather on impacts our body's microbiome. Our food supply has changed. It's not your grandmother's food. It's Frankenfood. GMO food has been linked to many disease states and even death in animals. GMO food will disrupt our gut microbiome and cause abnormal intestinal permeability. And we know wheat is directly linked to intestinal permeability. And by the way, wheat, in order to get it to the grocery shelves faster, so they've hybridized it so that it grows very quickly and they can get it to the grocery faster. It's also dried very quickly using glyphosate as a desiccant. So it's just not healthy. GMO foods are engineered to withstand all these herbicides, and usually it's Roundup. Resources for further education. Now, these are just a list of documentaries and books, usually produced by activists, people who really want to make a difference in whatever their focus is on. So I don't necessarily take those stances, but if you just want to learn about what's going on with your food supply, the animals that are used for our food, for the produce that's grown for our food, the supply chain and things of that nature, they're very eye-opening. So there's a few documentaries listed up there. I have not seen all of them. One of them that really stands out to me, especially if you have children, Secret Ingredients. Really like that one. Wheat Belly, the book by cardiologist William Davis, is also very good. It was written a while ago, but if you have diabetes, if you have any metabolic syndrome, pre-diabetes, blood sugar issues, that's a book you want to go check out and see if your library has it. Ours does. If you have any questions about this, head over to my website and shoot me an email. Let me know what you think. And if other people can benefit from it, send them my way. Thank y'all for joining me. I'll see you next time.